Hello students, welcome to Tobin Sharan team. So today we will try to understand the summary or we will try to explain the very famous writer Edgar Allan Poe's poem The Raven. Okay. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe is a spooky poem that tells a story about a man who is feeling really sad because he lost someone he loved. One night he hears a mysterious knocking sound at his door, and when he opens it, no one is there. But then a black bird called a raven flies into his room and starts talking to him. The raven keeps saying the word nevermore, and it makes the man feel even sadder. The poem is about his feelings and the strange visit from the raven. Now let's understand the line by line summary of the poem The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Line 1. Once upon a midnight dreary, which means the story opens late at night when it's very dark and spooky. Line 2. When I pondered weak and weary. The person in the story is thinking about something and feeling tired and sad. Line 3. Over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, which means he is looking at old books and things that people have forgotten about. Line 4. While I nodded, nearly napping, he is getting so tired that he is almost falling asleep. Line 5. Suddenly there came a tapping, which means out of nowhere there was a knocking sound. Line 6. As of someone gently rapping at my chamber door, which means it's like someone is knocking gently at his bedroom door. Line 7. This some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, which means he thinks it's just a person who came to visit him. Line 8. Only this and nothing more, which means he believes it's nothing important. Line 9. Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, which means he remembers that this happened in the cold month of December. Line 10. And each separate dying ember writhed upon the floor, which means the last bits of a dying fire were moving on the ground. Line 11. From my books, Sarkis of sorrow for the lost Lenore, which means he was trying to stop feeling sad by reading his books, but he still misses someone named Lenore. Line 12. For the rare and radiant maiden whom the angel named Lenore. Lenore was a beautiful and special person that even the angels knew about. Line 13. Nameless here forevermore, which means, but now she is gone and her name will never be spoken again. Line 14. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain, which means the curtains in his room were making soft, sad sounds. Line 15. Thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, which means the strange sound scared him and made him feel very sad, very afraid. Line 16. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, which means his heart was pounding fast and he tried to calm himself by saying, line 17, this some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, which means he told himself that it's just a person asking to come inside his room. Line 18, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. He thought it was someone who arrived at his door late. That's the meaning of that line. Line 19, this it is and nothing more, which means he believed it was only that and nothing else. Line 20, presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer, which means after a while he felt braver and decided to open the door. Line 21, sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, which means he politely said, I am sorry for keeping you waiting, sir or madam. Line 22, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, which means he mentioned that the knocking was very important. Line 23, that I scare was sure I heard you, which means he wasn't even sure if he really heard the knocking. Line 24, here I opened wide the door, darkness there, nothing more, which means when he opened the door, it was very dark outside and there nothing was there. Line 25, deep into the darkness peering, long eyes stood there wondering and fearing, which means he looked into the dark for a long time, feeling curious and scared. Line 26, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before, which means he was having a strange thoughts and dreams that nobody ever had. Line 27. But the silence was unbroken and the stillness have no talk, gave no talk. The stillness gave no token, which means everything was very quiet and there was no clues about who knocked. Line 28. And the only words there spoken were the whispered words Lenore. The only thing he said was Lenore because he was thinking about the person he missed. Line 29. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word Lenore, which means then he whispered Lenore. He heard the word echo back to him. Line 30. Merely this and nothing more, which means this was the only thing he heard and nothing else. Line 31. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, which means he went back inside his room feeling very emotional. Line 32. Soon I heard again a tapping somewhat louder than before, which means then he heard the knocking again, but it was a bit louder. Line 33. Surely, said I, surely there is something at my window lattice. He thought there must be something at my window. That is the meaning of that line. Line 34. Let me see then what the retreat is and this mystery explore, which means he wanted to see what was making the noise and find out the mystery. Line 35. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore, which means he wanted his heart to stop pounding so he could find out what was happening. Line 36. This the wind and nothing more, which means he thought it was just the wind making the noise and nothing else. Line 37. Open there I flung the shutter when with many a flirt and flutter, which means he quickly opened the window cover and there was a lot of movement and noise. Line 38. In there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore, which means a big important looking raven came into the room. It was like a bird from long ago. Line 39. Not the least obscene made he, not a minute stopped and stayed he, which means the raven didn't bow or stop for even a moment. Line 40. But with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, which means instead it acted like a royal person and landed on the spot above the man's bedroom door. Line 41. Perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, which means the raven sat on the top of a statue of a wise and important lady named Pallas. Line 42. Perched and sat and nothing more, which means it just stayed there and it didn't do anything else. Line 43. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, which means the black bird with its shiny feathers made the man feel a little bit happier. Line 44. By the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, which means but the bird had a very serious and stern expression on its face. Line 45. Though thy crest be shorn and shorn, thou I said art sure no craven, which means the man thought even though you have no fancy feathers on your head, you were still brave and not scared. Line 46. Ghastly grim and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore, which means the man thought the raven looked scary and very old, like it came from a faraway spooky place. Line 47. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore, which means he asked the raven to tell him its important name from the dark and mysterious place it came from. Line 48. Quoth the raven nevermore, which means but the raven didn't say any other name, it just said nevermore. Line 49. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, which means the man really surprised that the strange bird could talk so clearly. Line 50, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, which means even though the raven's answer didn't make much sense or have a clear meaning. Line 51, for we cannot help agreeing that no sublunary being, which means the man thought that the raven's words didn't come from this world. Line 52, ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, which he believed that nobody had ever seen a bird like this above their chamber door. Line 53, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, which means nobody had ever seen a bird or any other animal sitting on the top of a statue like this. Line 54, with such name as Nevermore. The raven's name seemed to be Nevermore, and it was very unusual. Line 55, but the raven sitting lonely on the placid dust spoke only, which means the raven sitting all by itself on the statue said only one word. Line 56, that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. It seemed like the raven poured all its feelings into that single word. Line 57, nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather, then he fluttered, which means after saying nevermore, the raven didn't say anything else and it didn't move its feathers. Line 58, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, which means the man was sad and whispered to himself, other friends have left me before. Line 59, on the morrow he will leave me as my hopes have flown before, which means he thought the raven would also leave him just like his hopes and other friends had gone away. Line 60, then the bird said nevermore, which means the raven repeated the word nevermore. Line 61, startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, which means the man was surprised by the raven's reply because it seemed to fit perfectly. Line 62, doubtless said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, which means he thought that nevermore was the only thing the raven could say. Line 63, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster, which means he guessed that the raven learned the word from a sad person who had faced a lot of trouble. Line 64, followed fast and followed faster till his songs one word and more, which means the word nevermore was like a song that the raven had learned from the prison's troubles. Line 65, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, which means it was like a sad song that the raven had carried with it. Line 66 of Never, Nevermore. The song was all about nevermore. Line 67, but the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, which means even though the raven made him feel sad, it also made him smile a little. Line 68, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door, which means he moved a comfy chair in front of the bird and statue and the door. Line 69, then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking, which means he sat down on the soft chair and started thinking. Line 70, fancy into unto fancy, thinking what this you ominous bird of your, which means he kept imagining and thinking about what this strange bird meant. Line 71, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt and ominous bird of your, which means he was trying to figure out what this scary and odd-looking bird meant. Line 72, meant in croaking nevermore. He wanted to know what the raven was trying to say with its nevermore. Line 73, this I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing. He was busy guessing and thinking, but he didn't say anything. Line 74, to the fall whose fierce eyes now burned into my bosom's core. He felt like the bird's fiery eyes were staring deep into his heart. Line 75, this and more is that divining with my head. He is reclining. He continued to think and relax with his head rustling comfortably. Line 76, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated over. He sat on the soft chair cushion and the light from the lamp made it look nice. Line 77, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamp light gloating over. The cushion had a beautiful purple color that looked even nicer in the lamp's light. Line 78, she shall press nevermore. He was imagining that no one would sit on this cushion again. Line 79. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, which means he felt like the air in the room was getting thicker and smelling nice as if from a hidden container. Okay. Then line 80. The meaning of line 80 is he imagined that the nice smell was coming from a special thing that angels touched with their feet. Line 81. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee. He suddenly called out, you poor bird, God has given you help through these angels. They have sent you to me. Line 82. Respite, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. He hoped that the bird could give him relief and help him forget his sadness over Lenore. 83. Quaff of quaff. This kind nepenthe and forgot this lost Lenore. He was asking the bird to drink a special drink called nepenthe to forget about Lenore. Line 84. Quoth the raven nevermore, but the raven only said nevermore again. Line 85. Prophet, said I. Thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil. He called the bird a prophet, meaning it could see the future. He thought it might be a bird or even a devil. Line 86. By that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, he swore by the sky above and getting, they both believed in. Line 87. Tell this all with sorrow laden if within the distant Eden. He wanted to know if in the afterlife or a better place called Eden. Line 88. It shall clasp a saint and maiden whom the angels name Lenore. He wondered if he would see Lenore again, the special lady angels knew. Line 89. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. He hoped he could hold and be with Lenore, the beautiful lady the angels talked about. Line 90. Quoth the raven nevermore. Once more the raven only said nevermore. Line 91. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. He decided that nevermore would be the last word they said to each other, whether the bird was a bird or a devil. Line 92. Get thee back into the tempest and night's Plutonian store. He hauled the raven to go back to the dark and stormy place it came from. Line 93. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. He wanted the raven to leave and not leave any black feathers behind as a reminder of its lies. Line 94. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. He wanted the raven to leave him alone and fly away from the statue above his door. Line 95. Take thy beak from out my heart and take thy form from off my door. He asked the raven to remove its beak from his heart and go away from his door. 996. Quoth the raven nevermore. Yet again the raven only replied with a nevermore. Line 97. And the raven never flitting, still is sitting, still is sitting. Which means the raven didn't move or fly away, it was still sitting there. Line 98. On the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, it stayed on the statue of Pallas above his door. Line 99. And his eyes have all the seeing of a demon's that is dreaming. The raven's eyes looked like those of a dreaming demon. Line 100. And the lamp light over him streaming throws his shadows on the floor, which means the light from the lamp made the raven's shadow on the floor. Line 101. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor. He, like his soul, was trapped in the shadow on the floor. Line 102 shall be lifted nevermore. He thought his soul would never be free from this feeling. In conclusion, this spooky poem is about a man who is very sad because he lost someone he loved, named Lenore. One night, a mysterious raven comes to visit him and keeps saying nevermore. The man thinks the raven might be a prophet and asks it if he will see Lenore in the afterlife. But the raven keeps saying nevermore. The man gets angry and tells the raven to leave, but it stays on the statue above his door. In the end, he feels like his sadness will never go away. The poem is about a sad man who talks to a blackbird called a raven. The raven keeps saying the word nevermore, which makes a man getting even sadder. The man asks the raven if he'll see his lost love Lenore again, but the raven always answers nevermore. This makes the man very upset and he tells the raven to leave, but it stays. The poem ends with a man feeling like his sadness will never go away, but the raven is still there, making him even more sad. It's a spooky and sad poem about a man's feelings and a strange bird. This poem is a very lengthy poem. So that's all. If you find this video useful, please do hit the subscribe button and support to the Tobencharan team.